Okay, welcome back everybody. So we're going to be talking a little bit today about how to use the library databases. I'm going to show you how to get into the library databases from the SCCC website. I've also provided a link for you guys showing you where the databases are for the library guide for citation. So you can go to that link directly, or you can follow the procedure that I'm going to show you here. And then we'll talk about a couple of the databases in particular and a little bit more about how to use them for your paper. So let's get started. I'm on the SCCC website, the SUNY Schenectady website, and this little thing up here says library. So we're going to click that. I have very slow internet. I probably should have talked while it was loading. And now we're at the Bagley Library. If you are near campus, the hours for the Bagley Library are right here. If you're near enough to campus that you come on campus, the hours right now are for the summer because I'm recording this in the summer, but they change in the fall, and then they change again during finals week. Actually, the before finals week and during finals week, the library has longer hours. So just make sure that you are aware of that. You can also type in here, it says, I am a librarian, ask us 24/7. Our library is part of a service called Ask Us 24/7, where you can ask a librarian a question, not necessarily one of the SUNY Schenectady librarians, but you can ask a librarian a question at any point of the day. So if you have a problem with the research, if you have a question about where to find something, you can go on there, type it in, and they will answer you within a couple minutes. I've actually used that for some of my research as well one time when I got stuck for one of my books. So there's a whole thing here about citations. In our class, as I've said before, we're doing MLA citation. MLA stands for Modern Language Association. APA citation is also there. APA is American Psychological Association. So a lot of times that'll be used for science classes and also social sciences. So things like social work, psychology, sociology, those kind of things. So if you need to switch from one citation to the other, you can. And Chicago is there too, which is sometimes used for history papers, but I'm not sure if the history classes at our school require that or not. Information literacy talks a little bit more about what that is, but really that's for faculty. And then we have this thing for research. So we are going to go in here for Find Articles. That's what I want you to click on. There are research guides, but really those are set up for specific courses. And for English, because we look at so many different subjects, using a research guide really wouldn't be as helpful. So you just want to go to Research, Find Articles, and then you can do one of three things. I don't recommend clicking on this. This is Journals A to Z. Our library subscribes to a large number of journals. Hopefully you've watched the video already about why to use a library database instead of Google. Also you have to log in. I forgot about logging in. So hang on one second. Okay, so I got logged in, and now there's this whole huge list of publications. When you do the journals A to Z, I'm seeing here they're done by discipline, but if I want agriculture, dentistry, dance, law, library science, public health, all of the journals are there, but it's really quite difficult to search that way. So the better way to do it instead is to click this thing called Library Databases. You can do search all, but let me tell you, that's going to bring up way too much. So I want you to go into the Library Databases instead. So once you're signed in, you have this whole list of all the databases. And just to break it down a little bit, a database contains a subscription for usually hundreds of thousands of journals, okay? So academic Onefile right here, which says popular for a reason. It's one file. It's one place where a lot of those journals can be found. Academic Search Complete is another database. So it has different journals and a lot of it's set up sort of a different way. They subscribe to a bunch of different journals. So because they have these databases, these are what that other video was talking about. These are not going to come up in a Google search, right? These are things that people have to pay usually to access, and the library has done the payment for us, which is nice. So we're actually going to look at these first two, Academic Onefile and Academic Search Complete. These two are great to use for a lot of topics. So I'm going to talk about those, and then we're going to scan down. We're going to look at this one, CQ Researcher, briefly, and then we're also going to look at, if I can find it, where am I? We might talk about Google Scholar later, and then we also, and the O's, opposing viewpoints. We'll talk about opposing viewpoints database as well. So those are the four that we're really going to concentrate on. Now, some of the other ones here you can tell are very specific. This one, New York Heritage, is just about New York State history. This one is just for medicine. There's one for sheet music or a music library if you're in a music program. But we're just going to, for our purposes, look at some general databases that have a lot of different journals to them. So the first one I'm going to do is Academic Onefile. And here we are in Academic Onefile. You can browse by discipline, but the easiest way is to do a search. Now, unlike Google, let's say that we're looking for something about nicotine addiction and cigarettes. If I was going to go into Google, I'd put like cigarettes, nicotine addiction, causes, effects. The more things I put into Google, the more that's going to come up, right? The thing with a library database is that it doesn't quite work like Google, so you don't want to really put in too many things. Now you can see that as I was putting stuff in, some things came up. So I'm going to do nicotine addiction. I look for that. If you see it's in quotation marks, that means it's going to search for that exact phrase. If I wanted to, I could look in a subject, I could look for a publication that has that, or I could do the entire document, but really the easiest way is just to do a basic search. And here we go. One of the first things I need you to do is go over here to the right and click that you need full text documents. For my class, you do not necessarily have to have peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals I work more with in College Composition Part 2. So peer-reviewed journal basically means that a group of the person's peers or people on their same level have reviewed the material, but a lot of times peer-reviewed articles are quite complicated, and that's not really what we want here. If you look above that, I can limit my results. So academic journals, that's for an academic audience, people who have a very, we talked about audience before. So academic journals are for people who are college educated. They usually are experts in their field. And you'll notice, here's one of the articles from an academic journal. Neuropeptide systems, a new treatment for nicotine addiction. I don't know about you, but I'm not quite sure what a neuropeptide is. I'm guessing from neuro that it has something to do with our brain, and it's from the Journal of Psychopharmacology. So it was written for other people who are also pharmacologists who do medications for people with psychological issues. That's what it's for. But I want something a little more accessible. So I'm going to switch from my content type of academic journals over to magazines. Again, if you don't have full text documents checked, what's going to happen is that you're going to just get citations and explanations of an article, like 1 or 2 sentences. Those are things that you have to pay for to see the whole article. Obviously, you don't want to pay for things for this class, so you just want to do full text. So here we have some things from EAP, which looks like they're talking about Scotland. Here we go. Psychology Today. So this might be something that I might want to use. If you notice, for our purposes here, it gives us the date, it gives what page it started on, and it gives the word count. Typically, you are going to have about 300 words per page. So for an article to be 3,800 words, that means that it's about 10 pages long. For an informative essay and for your research paper, I usually recommend that people find articles that are between 3 to 12 pages. Now, if you go over that a little bit, if you get into 15 or 20, that might not be too bad. You don't have to read the whole thing. If you have anything shorter than that, it's really not going to work. But if you have something that's 30 or 40 pages long, that's really not going to be helpful to you. And if you have something shorter, it won't have enough substance for you to write about. So I'm going to click on this article. Also because it's called Kicking Butts, and I think that's kind of funny. So the article Kicking Butts was in Psychology Today. It's written by Carl Sherman. Now you could take all of this information and create a citation, but in our library over here on the right, we have Citation Tools. So if you click that Citation Tool button, here's what comes up. I can get things in MLA, APA, or Chicago style, and I can copy that by right-clicking it and clicking copy. I can copy and paste it directly into my Works Cited page. So as long as you format the page correctly, that's fine. Has the link for me, tells me the author's name, the article, etc. You can also export it if you want to EasyBib and some of the things that help you do the citation correctly, ProCite, or you can select it and then download it. But really, copying and pasting is going to probably be easiest. The other thing too is that it'll have the link for you if you want to go back. The only thing is you have to know sometimes those links don't work properly, and it won't work at all if you're not signed in. If you're off campus, you will have to sign in to get to the library databases. So that's the first thing. The second thing over here on the right is that you can highlight. You can highlight some of the text. So if you want to, what does it say? Select an article to add highlights. So you can add highlight. There we go. You can add highlights. You can make notes. If you are signed in, then you can email that to yourself or print it out. So a couple things here to do. If you find an article, I do not like, I'm trying to delete my highlight now. I don't like saving it to a folder, and I will tell you why, because I have done research many times in these databases, and about half of the time that I've tried to save things into a folder, I've gone back in and it won't let me sign back in, or it kicks me out, or I press the back button and everything's lost. So I usually tell people, if you find an article you want, you need to download it, email it to yourself, print it, or save it to OneDrive or to Google Drive. Save it in some way. If you need a translation, if your English is a second language, you could get a translation, though I'd rather have you do it in English. And also, if you have an ADA issue where you learn better by listening, you can also listen to your article. If it'll let me. It used to let you pick what voices you wanted to, but I don't think it lets you do that anymore. It is reading it, but I don't think you guys can hear it quite yet. But at any rate, you can... There we go.
Nicotine addiction is extremely tenacious, and those determined to quit often experience several relapses before quitting for good.
So you can also, if you need to, you can download things as an MP3. You can highlight things with different colors. You can pick your reading, whether you want it slow or fast. You can highlight as you listen. So if you like listening to things, if that helps you remember, or if you're an auditory, if you process things better auditorily, then go ahead and do it. Whatever helps you out. One of the things I will say, I probably, if you had this article, would not let you use it because it's from 1994. So if I was talking about something like nicotine addiction, some of you weren't even born in 1994. Think about how much research has been done since 1994. It's not really up to date, but it's still nice to just get in here and have me click around a little bit and show you kind of how to use some things. So if I wanted to download this, I could click that and download it. If I wanted to email it, I can download the MP3 or the HTML to my computer. I could email it to myself. You just put your email here. It's mine and my husband's. You put your email there for the mail to and the mail from, and you can email it to yourself. So let's go back to our search results, and we will talk a little bit about how to limit them to kind of get what you want. Okay, so here are the search results. There's a thing here called Lexile Score that basically refers to how hard it is to read. So if you have 1300 or above, it's really written at a college level. If you have 1000, that's about 10th grade, 900 is about 9th grade, etc., all the way down the line. So if you're worried about the reading level, you can kind of look for something like that too. I can sort by the newest, which would help me get those things that are a little bit more up to date as well. So you'll notice Not Cool to Be Jewel at School is from July and August of 2018. This is actually about devices the size of a USB drive to inhale nicotine vapors. Right, so in 1994, you didn't really have people vaping, right? Another one about the vapors and getting kids hooked on nicotine, and the Juul craze, how schools are scrambling to deal with vaping. So all of those things are quite up to date. Having a simple sort can get you the most up-to-date things. So I'm going to click in one of them. This one has, if you notice, a very short word count. This one, the word count is 6,000 words. So that's going to be a little bit more substantial from the New Yorker. Again, if I needed to cite it, I would click Citation Tools. MLA 8th edition comes up. I can copy that and paste it right into my article, or right into my Works Cited page, sorry. Full text is there, and then you can see kind of how long this is, and you could grab a quotation. The citation is again at the end. The other nice thing that I like about this database is that they have related resources at the bottom. So if you like this resource and you want something that is similar, some things are right there for you to get. So now I'm going to show you guys another database. Close that up, and this time we're going to go to Academic Search Complete. Academic Search Complete is similar to Academic Onefile, but in my opinion, I think some of the tools it has to limit those topics and limit that text is a little bit easier. So let's say this time that we're going to do something on domestic violence. Let's say that's our topic. Now you notice when I start typing that a lot of things pop up, probably because there's a lot on this topic. I'm going to look at domestic violence against women. Specifically, I want to limit it to full text. Again, oops, let me go back. I don't know if you guys can hear, but I have chickens at my house, and the rooster is crowing right now, and it's kind of throwing me off. I don't know if you can hear him or not. I hope it's not horrible for you if you can. All right. So I'm going to click full text. For my class, again, you do not have to do scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, but if you have another class where they're asking you to do that, you want to click that button to make sure that you get that as well. So I have domestic violence against women, and I've limited it to full text. And then I'm going to press search. Rooster. Okay, so my search results came up because I put more words in. It really doesn't have that many search results. If I had just put domestic violence, which I will in a minute, you'll see how many more searches will come up. So this one's against women in Turkey. Then we have some things that are not in English. So I really want to limit them. And my publication date, I want stuff that's more recent. So I'm going to put my publication data in here. I'll look for the last 5 years. So I'll put 2013 to 2018. That'll limit things right off the bat. Now I have 154 sources to go through. The other thing I've noticed at this, that there's some things that are non-English. So I just want English articles. Now I have 117 things to go through. The other thing is I could just look at magazines like we were before. This time I'm going to look at newspapers. So I will have only 4 sources to kind of look at. I don't recommend doing that as it'll be a little bit too much. So here's something that's actually kind of interesting. It's only 1 page long. It's from the Christian Science Monitor, which is not really Christian. It's kind of interesting. But sometimes you'll see something here that says Full Text Finder. Don't be afraid to click on Full Text Finder. Full Text Finder means that our library subscribes to the journal that is from, but the database that you're in might not. So it just takes a couple more clicks to kind of get what you want. So those are my 4 newspaper articles. Let's say that I like this one, even though it's kind of short, I might want to take a look at it. So here we go. All right, now you'll notice on the right-hand side, the same stuff that we had before. I can save it to Google Drive. I can add it to a folder. By the way, again, I don't recommend this. I can print it, I can email it, I can save it, and I can cite it. So if I click Cite, it comes up a little bit differently. This has tons of different types of citations. So again, you want MLA, and you're going to copy that, and then you'll paste it right into your Works Cited page if you use it as a source. Again, this is a little bit short. 355 words is maybe a page and then like a sentence or two. So it might not be great. Oh, here we go. I told you could pick the accent, Australian, British, or American, if you want to listen to it. So here we have a very short article. You notice that some of my search terms are there in boldface, and it's saying that the Bureau of Justice Statistics shows that the rates of domestic violence have been decreasing. I would actually want you to go in and try to find that somewhere else, but for our purposes, it's fine. One of the things that I like about, and it doesn't have it in this article, of course it doesn't. One of the things that I like about this database, I'm going to go back to the search results and I'm going to take off newspapers. There's a couple things that I like about this database. First, I think it's very easy to limit things much more easily than you can in academic Onefile. The other thing is that if you notice here where it lists subjects, if I click on this article, now this is about women in Turkey, so maybe it's not really what I want. But when I click on it and go into it, all of my subject terms are here. So let's say I don't want anything about Turkey, but I do want things about family violence. So I click on that as a subject term and a bunch of stuff comes up about family violence. Now I only want things that are full text, so I'm going to limit it to that. Once again, now I have 7,000 things. You can see how family violence has a lot more search terms than having lots of search terms like domestic violence against women, where it looks for that phrase specifically. This time I'm going to search for, again, let me put in this time 2015. I want things that are quite recent. Now I've gotten 1,190 items. If I go again down here, I'm going to limit just by English. Now I have 1,150. And then I want, let's just look at magazines. 200 things from magazines. 200 is actually not that bad if you think about it. It's about 20 pages of stuff to go through if you have things for 1 through 10, and usually you'll be able to find something before that, right? So this one looks like it's specifically about one specific incident. I don't know that I really want that. This one, it looks like it's about Native people in the American courts and American Indians and Alaskan Natives. So that might be a little too specific as well. That one's about immigration, and this one's the right to leave. This is about abused women, intimate partner violence, and family violence. This is probably more what I'm looking for. If you look at the length, it's 7 pages. So we have here who it's by, where it was written, the date it was written, the information about the magazine, so the volume and issue number. Volumes are typically for the year, and issues are for within the year. And then the pages it occurs on, how long it is, and how many photographs it has. The other nice thing I like about Academic Search Complete is that it has this little button that you can press. So if you look at where I've just moused over the little magnifying glass, this gives you a preview. So this says, the article focuses on the efforts of the Catholic Church in helping women in abusive marriages in the U.S. Topics discussed include social justice offered by the Catholic churches, and then views of some of the people, and rehabilitation of women who have faced emotional, psychological, or sexual aggression. Well, here's the thing. Let's say that my paper is really not on the Catholic Church at all, and it's just on intimate partner violence with abused women. Maybe I don't want this article, but I do think that it would be interesting to hear from experts about rehabilitation of women who have been victims of domestic violence. So maybe I can use something from it. After all, you really have to kind of choose what you think is going to best work for you, but you have to really look. Intimate partner violence, a pathway to suicide, probably would be more relevant to you than Putin's war on women, which is about this in Russia, right? Parents accused of horrific abuse. That is about the one family that was accused last winter. My father was a serial killer. You can see by me going through these that not all of these would work for you. And you don't have to use magazines either. If we want to look at academic journals, we can maybe find something that you could use in your article. So let's go to academic journals this time. Book reviews is something you don't want to use because book reviews are short and they're just reviewing a book, as the name indicates. So here we have different studies done for people suffering from domestic violence. This one is post-traumatic stress disorder in parents of patients with schizophrenia following familial violence. Very specific. But I actually think that this one, domestic violence risk assessment in community health studies, is not in English. I don't know why that came up. And this one is about Tanzania. So it might take me a couple pages to kind of find something that I want, right? Healthcare providers, there's the one about domestic violence in Turkey. Let's go on to page 2. Survivors representing survivors. Okay. So this is actually kind of an interesting article about people that aren't always struggle for visibility as victims of intimate partner violence. If I do a subject shows gun laws, family violence, prison, Tennessee, gun laws in Tennessee aimed at victims of gendered violence, supposedly for protection, maybe that would work. But it does talk about battered women syndrome, what stand your ground, the defenses that go to those groups. So let's click on that. It's 42 pages long, though, if you notice. Again, you can print, email, save, cite over on the right. You can also click on some codes here, or you can click on family violence and go just to that. If you wanted to do that. Now, the other article I showed you had HTML, meaning the text was right underneath. This one does not. This one has the PDF over on the left-hand side. So when you click on that PDF, it will take you to a web viewing of the entire journal, right? But it just takes you to the page of the article where the journal, of the article in the journal. And you can see it's quite long and it has a lot of footnotes, but you could maybe grab a quotation or something from here. And I kind of just wanted to show you that sometimes they're in PDF form and sometimes they're in HTML form. So that is a good overview of that database. Now we're going to look very briefly, I promise, CQ Researcher. So the difference with CQ Researcher is that it doesn't subscribe to a bunch of journals. CQ Researcher actually has a group of people who work there who write the articles for this particular database. The difference is that because there's so many articles, they still have it as a database, and it's not set up like a magazine or a newspaper or anything like that. So they have different reports on subjects that students use, students who are in high school, but mostly students who are in college. The difficulty with CQ Researcher is that if your topic is not here, you cannot use CQ Researcher. And if you go to look for a topic, you can only use a few words. So we'll see if anything pops up for domestic violence. I don't know whether it will. Okay. The other thing about CQ Researcher is that sometimes it has reports and sometimes it'll have mini reports. The third thing is that you really have to get a full report to get really what you're looking for. You notice too that I only let people use one report from CQ Researcher. First of all, because it's the same group of people writing it. Second of all, because they take the same topic, they don't change the name, and then they do an update every year or two, or in this case, it was 7 years later. So we have domestic violence report from 2006, and then that was updated in 2013. So that's the one I'm going to click on. Now, the nice thing is that when you get into this report, it is about 30 pages long. However, they have broken it up into sections for you. So we have, my computer is crazy here. Let me zoom out. There we go. We have on the right-hand side, there's other things called an issue tracker, so related reports. Do I want things about gang violence or fighting gangs or preventing hazing, or the old report about domestic violence? Probably not, but it's nice to have them there. This has an overview, which is like a summary of the topic, and then it also has a background of the situation. The background gives me... Something's going on here with my computer. Sorry. The background gives me what it says, the background of the subject, usually the history of the subject. So it has the colonial laws here, which is kind of interesting, and then it moves forward, right? So the background is the history. Current situation is what's going on now. And then the outlook is what they think will happen in the future, or what should be happening in the future. They also have a pro-con section, so when you go to write your argument essay, this can be quite helpful. They have a pro-con section, and then they have short feature. They have a chronology, which is a timeline, and then they also have short features, which are different, shorter articles about the same topic. So here we've got two articles by the same person, but they're shorter features, so it's something within that article. Here is our button to cite. APA comes up first, so you have to go over to MLA, and then you can copy and paste that right in. You can also print or email this to yourself or download it and save it. And basically all of the reports kind of work the same way. If I go into, I'm going to go back to the home here, and let's take a look at climate change. Climate change set up the same way, right? Once it loads up, cite it, print it, email it, save it, and then I can see the chronology. This looks like it's a short report, so it doesn't have everything, which is annoying to me. But basically that's it. That's how things are set up. Limit your search terms as much as possible and use it especially for controversial topics. The last one I'm going to show you guys is opposing viewpoints. So I'm going to go down to the O's, my list of library databases. Click on opposing viewpoints. The thing about opposing viewpoints, it's actually from the same people that have academic Onefile. If you notice, it still says Gale up here. But one of the things that I love about opposing viewpoints is that they do a lot of the research for you. So if I put in domestic violence here, and I do that search, here is their page for domestic violence. So on this page, you can search within results, but they have featured viewpoints. Those are arguments or editorials. There's 174 journals. There's viewpoints that are arguments or editorials. They're just not featured. There's a primary source. A primary source means that it is probably data or statistics, or something that a person has written directly about a topic. They have reference articles, they have images, they have videos, they have audio, they have newspaper, they have magazines, and then they have some stats and some websites as well. Now, you can't use the websites for your informative report, but you can use them when you get into your researched article. So when you go to do the research for the research paper, this is a great place to come. Because look, it's all cultivated for you. If I click on the academic journals, all of those will come up. I'm going to look right now at one of the featured viewpoints. Let's look at international violence. All right, international violence. It gives you the article commentary. Here's what you should think about when you read, which that's kind of nice. That's one of the reasons it's featured. Then it has the article, and then again, a lot of books that they used, and then some related resources, right? Again, which is kind of nice. And on the right-hand side, for this, since it's longer, there's a little table of contents, so you can click to each section. And like I said before, you can highlight it, you can cite it, you can save it, you can print it, you can email it. So those are 4 of the primary library databases that you can use for your paper. If you have problems getting into them, contact the librarians first. Sometimes it might be an IT issue as well. And then if you have issues finding stuff, try to use fewer search terms. I gave you guys a pretty broad topic, so I don't think that you will have as many problems finding them, but I do think, as you could see, the opposing viewpoints is a great place to start. And using the CQ Researcher is very comprehensive. What I like about CQ Researcher is it's kind of like, you know, we want to use Wikipedia a lot of the time, or my students do at least, because Wikipedia, you just put in a search term and everything's there, but it's a wiki. It means that it's cultivated by other people who don't really know anything about the topic. They're not experts, and anybody can go in and change it. CQ Researcher gives the same background detail that a site like Wikipedia does, except instead of being copied and pasted from a bunch of different places, it's really very carefully researched, and it's written in a user-friendly way because it's for people in high school and college. So it's going to be a lot more user-friendly than some of the academic journals you might find. So that's it, everybody. I look forward to looking at your papers, and please make sure to watch the videos from YouTube about how to set up your MLA works cited pages. Obviously, you can copy and paste citations from the library databases for this project, but for your next project, you won't be able to. So that's it. Have a great day.